Okay, I'm going to start my first editing video as a very simple edit, and I love it when I can get a good image in the field and I don't need to do a lot of work. But because I'm working in an environment where I don't have any control over the bird, there are some times where you do need to do a little bit more editing. And I'll just talk about this photo quickly about how I would process this. I look at this image and it's sharp, so that's a good thing. I've exposed it a little bit light, and that was because I wanted the details in the black. And there's a little bit of distraction here with this bit of grass, and this little bit of grass stands out a little bit to me as well, and just a little bit down here, and I will remove those. I think that's all I would do. But the first thing I notice, if I want to get the bird a little bit darker, but I don't want to make the background much darker, I actually want to do those in 2 steps. So I'll show you how I do that. So let's go over to the right side, and the profile of the image is Adobe standard. So that's what I choose to do. So that's instead of the Adobe Color Landscape or anything, the Adobe Standard keeps the image pretty flat before I start processing it. So it gives me a good file to look at with the darks and the lights. And you can see a little bit in the lights, they're a little bit brighter there. But this bird is very difficult to photograph, and I photographed this in strong light. All right, so now looking at the exposure, and I've got my histogram up here because I want you to see what's going on here, and you can see there's a bit of gap here. So a quick introduction to the histogram. So to the left here, this is the darks. Around the middle here is where your mid-tones would be, and then right to the right you would see the lighter colours like the whites and pale blues and so on. And you can see that I've pushed it right across, and that's okay because I actually haven't really overexposed anything, but it's pretty close. So I can always bring that back and still maintain detail. And same with the black, so I can bring the blacks back a bit and still have that detail. So I'm going to drop my exposure a touch. So I'll go to my slider and I'll bring it back a little bit, and you can straight away see the difference there, and you can see that's starting to look nicer. And the background is even gone a the mid-tones, and you can see how it's all moved across here. And then I'll go down. I don't do a lot with the contrast slider. I like to do that in Photoshop to add contrast. I might bring the highlights down a little bit, and the main area that I've targeted that is here, just to try and you can see if you don't see how I'm sliding that gives you a good idea of how it's affecting the highlights. And so I'll pull it back a little bit, and you can see here I have that's looking a bit different, and I don't think I can do much with that other than if I wanted to do some cloning, but I'm going to leave it like that and just see what I can do here. Then you've got the shadows. I don't think I need to do any shadows, to be honest. If anything, I would probably bring them down a bit because I'm trying to maintain the black here. So I might bring the blacks back a bit on the slider just to see what I can get. And if I go back to 100 to fit on the, and go to 100%, and you can see that's looking quite nice. Going to look at the white balance, and sometimes, like, because it was in daylight, but you might want to bring it back a bit. It's very much a personal taste. You can see, like, the further you go back, and then and if I go back to the auto, you can see that's not quite what I want, but sometimes I find the auto is a good starting point. So I've dropped the exposure a little bit, I've brought the highlights down, shadows down a little bit. You can see if you start, I just don't like that. If you see here, when I lift my shadows, I just don't like what it does there. So you've got to be very careful with it. And I'm very careful when I'm doing something like that, when it's the bird itself. Could take out use the remove tool here. It's a little bit bigger than the piece of grass that I'm going to clone out. So I'll start from here and just slowly go up. And just make sure you've got all the edge there. And that should take it out. And that looks mighty fine to me. This other piece of grass here. So right from the bottom, and you've got to have a good hand here because I probably could have gone a little bit bigger with my brush. But I'm just dragging it. So I'm holding the mouse down, and just making sure I've got the whole thing there. And that looks good. So just something I want to show. So I'll do this little bit here first. I was just going to show you something else that I like to do. This, and that's gone. Okay, so see the eye of the bird. A little trick that I want to show you here that I often do. I don't think it needs it so much on this particular bird, but I'm going to just show you. I go back into my masking and I'm going to do a radial gradient, and I'm just going to do the eye. So I just put it over that, and the mask, you can see that how I've masked the eye. So up here, I just show it on and off. So you want it off when you're doing the actual edit because then you can see it. So what I do is I lift the exposure a little bit to make the eye a bit brighter, and then I bring the contrast into that, and then you can see it. I'll just show you what that can look like. So if I just, you can see the difference that it's made. I've exaggerated a bit to show you, but that can work a real treat when you're trying to get a bit of light onto the eye. You just got to watch the area around the light, around the eye, and brush it off because you can add or subtract from your mask. So if I show the mask, and so if I want to subtract some of the mask, and then I just press subtract, brush, and I just reduce the size a little bit, and I just brush it off around there. It's just a quick way to do it. There's lots of ways that you can highlight the eyes, but for a quick and easy edit, that's what I would do. Okay, so let's get back, and now we're just going to go back. So we press that to get out of our masking, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask the bird itself because I want just to make the bird a little bit darker but not the background around the bird. So just press the mask, and this drives me nutty. So create new mask, and I'm going to select the subject, and you can see it's done quite a good job at the subject. And all I will do here is maybe just a little bit dark. There's not a lot, just -21 there. And see what I'm just darkening the darks a little bit. So if I just fit that, and you can see Yeah, you probably won't see it. No, you won't see it on here, but it's only a very, very slight adjustment. And I could do another mask, create new mask, and select the background. And just lift the exposure a little bit on the background. If you just want to go a little bit lighter, just maybe lift the blacks a little bit so you get just the mid-tones, you just get it a little bit lighter. And take some of the contrast out of it maybe, just to sort of, because you haven't taken the contrast out of the bird, but you're just taking a little bit out of the, so a bit out of the background, because you don't want the background to be dominant. So, and I think that looks quite nice. Just close my mask, go back to the original, and that's probably all I would do to that photo. I'll just show you how I would crop it. I just hit the crop. So I deliberately shot this where he was amongst the foliage there because I really liked that. So I chopped this down a little bit. There's a lot of different crops you could do. You could do one for Instagram where it's, but I really like this crop, and I could even go closer because I've got quite a bit of pixels on this. So that looks quite nice. So let's crop that. And there you go. And I like that little bit of grass there. He was messing around on the ground, and very hard to get this photo, but I haven't done any sharpening or anything on this. I don't sharpen my master copy. I sharpen the master copy when I bring it into Photoshop. So this now is still not finished for me, but it's quite a good photo already. It would need to be saved as the master, and then I would save the master before I cropped, and then this would be my master crop, which will be saved, and then I do a web size for social media. So I do whatever I need to do there. And that is just a very simple edit that I've shown you today.